In life, we encounter people every day, all of whom have stories to share. We rarely take the time to ask people their personal stories, many of which will touch, move, and inspire us in some way. Matt has a passion for making authentic connections and learning about people from all walks of life. He has lived a life of giving back to the community and making a difference in people's lives. Are you ready to meet fascinating people and hear some inspiring stories? The Matt Hilton Show will introduce you to a world of possibilities you never knew existed. Sit back, be present, and enjoy. Here's your host, Matt Hilton.
Hey everyone, Matt Hilton here, the host of the Matt Hilton Show. Thanks for tuning in today. Today's guest is an acquaintance of mine, and I met her a few weeks ago at a training seminar, and she is a social media expert and the CEO of Thrive. You don't want to miss this episode. Stay tuned for a word from our sponsor.
With almost 20 years of real estate experience in the North Texas area, the professional realtors at Hilton Realty Advisors have helped over 500 clients with their housing needs. Hilton Realty Advisors covers all areas of real estate: buying, selling, building, investing, and renting. We deliver the keys to homeownership to all through integrity, love, and joy. Call us today for all of your real estate needs.
Hey everyone, Matt Hilton. Thanks for tuning in to the Matt Hilton Show. Today's guest is an acquaintance of mine that I met at an event not too long ago, and she is the CEO of Thrive, and she's going to teach us how to thrive in our lives. And so Kathy Fielder, thank you so much for being here today as a guest.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely.
You are so welcome. You're so welcome. So I have heard your name mentioned several times throughout my life, and when I saw you at an event, I guess a couple of months ago, I was like, that is the same person that I have heard her name. So how would somebody in the audience have heard your name?
I've done a lot of different things in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, from charity work and chairing galas to also, pretty big entrepreneur. I had the longest running bedding collection at Neiman's and Horchow for years. And so I've been on air at QVC. I think it's just ingratiating yourself into the community and telling your story and listening to the stories of people around you.
How competitive is that space of interior design and being, a retailer in Horchow and Neiman
selling
Marcus?
to retailers is insanely competitive, and it's very difficult. QVC, it took me 4 years to even, or maybe 3 years before I was actually on air at QVC. It was 3 years of leading up to that and making it work. And just really kind of going, okay, I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to make this happen, right? The first time I'm on the air at QVC, I'm sitting there live, and the Property Brothers walk up. Oh. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's the Property Brothers. And you can't really show anything because you're just on air.
Right.
And so that was kind of a surreal experience. I mean, the next time I turned around and Catherine Zeta-Jones was right there. So it's just kind of funny, like what you see at QVC. But the retail space is incredibly hard. And I think it's the hardest it's ever been to be in it, honestly.
So if someone wants to enter into that space, what advice would you give them? Don't wait, say that a little louder.
Don't do it. I'm kidding. No. I think that it is a very difficult space to be in because importing is so hard, sourcing is so hard. If you look at it just simply from an entrepreneur and a business perspective, it's an incredibly tough space to be successful in, and you're fighting for pennies. And so I was a small business owner doing it, and so you're literally trying to compete with these big guys and get this done, right, and still make a profit. And almost all of my line was produced in America, and so which is really strange. Like nobody does that anymore, right?
Right.
So during COVID, I imported masks from my different contacts. So we had masks coming in when even Amazon didn't have masks. But after that, I kind of got burned out, and I need a little break from the manufacturing side, and decided to kind of move towards, I've been doing some interior design. I own Thrive, which deals with kind of helping people get into the retail space and understanding how to market yourself in order to be relevant enough for retailers to want to pick you up. Because it's key. Social media is key for that.
Yeah. So you've been in that space for 25-ish years or so? Oh, I saw that online.
I'm so kidding. I started my first company when I was 23, an interior design firm. I started my manufacturing firm when Isabella, my daughter, was 5 and she's 19.
Okay.
So roughly 15 years.
Okay. All right, cool. Do you think it would be harder for someone to get into that space today versus 15 years ago or so?
I think when I first started launching companies and kind of becoming this entrepreneurial like being that I am. I don't know that I would do it now, right? I feel like when I was younger, I just said, okay, cool, I'm going to make this happen. Whereas now I feel like it's harder. It is harder. I do think, do I think it's possible? Absolutely. I think anything's possible.
Sure.
But I think you have to be very strategic, and there's this huge learning curve, especially now with the sourcing of items and sourcing of goods. It's very, very difficult to get what you want, right? And to like consistently get it, which is key. So you have to be willing to pivot and turn product around, I think, more quickly, right? And on top of that, I feel like you have to, it really is a numbers game. It's a spreadsheet game. And so you have to know how to play that game in order to be successful.
How did you learn to play that game? Where did all this come from?
Well, you know, when I was 23, I read 50 books in a year on how to be successful. I read a book a week.
Okay.
So, and I just anything from how to be like an entrepreneur, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, some old school stuff, some new stuff, how to think positively, how you relate to people. I feel like that kind of changed the dynamic of my career for sure. I think the more positive, the more things that you put in your brain that help you think better, I mean, the better you become, right? I mean, obviously. Sure. And so, but at the end of the day, I get asked often, well, how do you think that you did all this? Because you don't quit. You don't quit. I mean, it's like all the rules of engagement and all of the principles of success really don't change that much. They might change a little bit in how they're presented. But at the end of the day, if you really want to be successful, then you don't quit. And in today's marketplace, I will say there's a little bit of a difference in the fact that you have to know how to pivot. And you've got to be able to kind of work on the fly even more so than ever in order to be successful, because there's always competition around you, and it's sharp. It's sharp competition.
When was the last time you had to pivot?
Oh gosh. I mean, everybody has to do that. If you're a business owner, you're always pivoting. I mean, right?
Right.
After the masks that we imported and we sold to hospitals and the general public, you know, I decided to pivot because I just didn't want to be in that space anymore. You know, I had a couple of retail boutiques, fashion boutiques, that I had one in Dallas and one in New Orleans, and just watching what was happening with retail and how you can't compete with the bigger names, right? And they're all struggling. Everybody's struggling. And I just decided it was time for me to pivot past that as well and go back kind of to my roots. And those two things are, with Thrive, I'm helping other people maintain a presence in the retail market through marketing and PR, and not really PR, but marketing and social media. And then on top of that, I'm designing a couple big projects right now that I'm super excited about.
And are you able to disclose what those big projects are?
One is on Swiss Avenue, and
Okay.
so my favorite portion of design is remodeling, and especially old houses. I've always lived in older houses for the most part, and so I have a real knack for understanding kind of the inner workings of them. I feel like they have a lot of personality, so I'm doing a house on Swiss, and I'm actually doing a commercial office building off of Central.
So what are the nuances? I'm going to go down a little bunny trail because I'm in real estate. What are the nuances of remodeling? I'm assuming it's a historic home.
It is a historic home. It is. You know, I think that remodeling takes a kind of different mindset, and there's all these little details that you run into, and I think it's really important that you're able to help your client through that, so that they are not frustrated. But you also have to really know what you're doing. You have to understand that in order to be successful at it, and you have to have a great team around you. You know, you surround yourself with a great team, and then you can make wonderful things happen. But at the end of the day, you know, your job when you're designing a property is to make it special and to make it what the client really wants in order to be fulfilled at the end of the day. And I take pride in that. I think it's important, and I think that's what happens in these older homes, is that you have to really look at all the little things, because they don't have as many closets or not as much closet space, or the kitchen where you dig into a wall and it's no good, you know, all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
It's understanding not to panic and just to work through it in order to make the space special for the homeowner.
Sure. And you mentioned about having the right team. How do you know, Kathy Fielder, how do you know that you have the right people in the right seat on the bus? Like, is there a process that you went through to find the right people? Or are you still trying to find the right people?
No. And in fact, I have a lady girl, Chandler, who works with me, and she helps me on the Thrive side and just with social media, and she's wonderful. And she's been with me, goodness gracious, for 6 years, right? And so I think that you learn to recognize the people that you can really work with and trust, and you have to empower them, and they empower you, right? And I think if you pay attention, you'll get that sense of who they are. And you have to be fair and kind and right? I mean, that's what everybody really needs. And if you all are respectful of each other, then you're able to create a culture that is a phenomenal culture for success.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you said that. So how do you find the best way to empower your employees?
You listen, and you're respectful of them as people and understand their needs. And you surround yourself with people who also respect you and understand yours. And you find it. I mean, nobody's going to love each other every day, and no one's going to get along every day. But I think if there's an open and communicative process, that there's power in that, especially in today's marketplace, because I feel like there's a lot of change. There's a lot of tumultuous situations. And if we're able to just be honest and open and have the character that we should, I feel like people want to be around you and you want to be around them.
Yeah.
And it's important. That creates a culture of success.
You've always been an entrepreneur, or did you work for a corporation at some point?
I never did.
Did.
I've sometimes said that I think it would have been really smart to do that, like when I was younger, in order to just kind of see that structure versus automatically going out on my own and like putting on my gloves and fighting it out every day.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2009, when the economy crashed, I think it was in 2009, I lost 7 figures worth of revenue in 9 months.
Oh, my word.
And I literally, I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know what to do. I mean, how do you get over that? I'm still a small business, right? And how do you even come close to being able to sell, these expensive bedding sets that no one's going to buy in that environment? But you figure it out. I came up with a new business plan, talking about pivoting. I came up with a new business plan that the next year I did $750,000 with a company that I would have never guessed that I could have ever done business with, because it was just the margins just weren't there to create something domestically and sell it. But I did it. So again, you just have to, when there's a will, there's a way, and you don't quit and you figure it out. You have to be savvy and strong and roll up your sleeves. And I've done everything in my company, everything. I've delivered boxes with my kids, one of my kids in a car seat, in a U-Haul. No kidding.
Yep.
And my daughter on like Christmas Eve day to Neiman Marcus because the driver didn't show, and it was me and my mom and the kids, and we were putting boxes on the dock at Horchow. So you just do what you have to do.
So anyone, I don't want to say female entrepreneurs, but I mean even male entrepreneurs, what advice would you give them as they're starting down that road, or they're thinking, maybe they are in the corporate environment and they're thinking, I've got this passion, this desire to go out on my own?
Do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, I think sometimes you just have to take a gamble and you roll up your sleeves. I feel like doing it, you don't just work harder, you also have to work smarter. So you make a plan. You look at your product or whatever, the service or good, whatever you have, right? And you say, okay, where in the marketplace does this fit? How can it be successful in the marketplace? And so you take 6 to 9 months and you strategically plan that out. And you look for opportunities and you start to think about who you know. That might be an effective relationship, that you can respectfully create a culture of, I have this product, those sorts of things. You have to be willing to ask for help. You have to be willing to put your name out there. You have to be willing to just just be really strategic. But you just have to do. Sometimes you just have to do.
How important is your sphere or your network of people to your business?
Oh my goodness. That's actually, I pride myself on my network, not because I want a network, but because you create a network of people who support each other. And I have women and men, professionally, personally, that are absolutely essential for me to move forward, and them too, right? I mean, that's what we're supposed to work together, and it takes a village and your team, and you come up with ways to help people. I do it all the time. Somebody needs a contact or somebody needs this. And I'm like, sure, here you go. I mean, and I don't have to get anything out of it. It's just simply that I can help bolster someone to the next step, and I bet you, somehow it'll come back at some point. It's kind of my thought process on that.
No, it totally will.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And being in the business exactly the business I'm in, it's very important because I've 17 years as a realtor, and I get repeat and referral business, and I have a vast list of different vendors and people that I can call on and that I know, like, and trust.
Sure.
And I help other people because you come from a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity.
Absolutely.
So even in your field, I would feel like that if someone wanted to enter into that space and they came to you and you had the bandwidth to mentor or help,
For sure.
there's enough business out there for everybody.
There
right?
absolutely is. And you know what? I mean, kindness goes a long way, and you just pay it forward. It's important. And that's not really just a business attitude, that's a life attitude. And it's something my children, I've taught them, and I want them to know and understand because it's so important. You have to know what you stand for, and you have to be able to stand up for yourself when it's needed. But you also, if you deal with character and kindness, then you're always going to have a better product than if you're just bulldozing your way through it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's relationships over transactions.
It absolutely
Right.
is relationships because over time, you know, it's going to come back. At some point, whatever you've done, it'll come back through, and you're going to have to like address it and deal with it. So you might as well do it in the best way that you can.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes you also just have to say, "Hey, I messed up. I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
I mean, but I did.
And accept the responsibility. And
Yeah.
Okay, y'all, that's a wrap for today's show. Stay tuned next week for part 2 of Kathy Fielder's story. You don't want to miss it. Also, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
If you'd like to contact Matt or know a fascinating person with an inspiring story that would make a great guest, reach out to the show at themattHiltonshow@gmail.com.